Welcome to the 700 Club. Vice President Kamala Harris defended herself against charges of flip-flopping in her first interview since President Biden dropped out of the race. She spoke with CNN, along with her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
The pair covered issues including the economy, illegal immigration, and Israel. CBN's Jenna Browder has the story.
In her first sit-down interview since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris tried to defuse charges of flip-flopping by saying her values remain the same.
I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed.
Harris asked to explain how her views have shifted on key issues since she first ran for the White House in 2019. On illegal immigration, she says she no longer thinks the border should be decriminalized.
During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. The number of immigrants coming from that region has actually reduced since we began that work.
Harris also defended Bidenomics, despite high inflation in the last 3 years, claiming successes on issues like bringing down prescription medication costs and improving supply chains. On the issue of fracking for oil, critical to voters in the key swing state of Pennsylvania.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
However, a CNN fact check showed that Harris never stated her own position on fracking in that 2020 debate. She simply said that Joe Biden wouldn't ban it. On foreign policy, Harris again said she supports Israel, saying they have to get a deal done to end the war in Gaza, while also supporting a Palestinian state.
I remain committed since I've been on October 8 to what we must do to work toward a two-state solution, where Israel is secure and in equal measure the Palestinians have security and self-determination and dignity.
But a former George W. Bush White House press secretary responded online. How can Kamala say her position on Israel won't change when she's changed her position on virtually every stand she's already taken? I will never trust her to stand by Israel. She'll collapse under the left-wing pressure in a heartbeat. Meanwhile, on the stump in Michigan, former President Trump made headlines of his own. On the issue of abortion, Trump saying he thinks a 6-week ban is too short and vowing that his administration would ensure IVF treatments are more easily accessible.
Under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment, fertilization for women, IVF treatment. Because we want more babies, to put it very nicely.
And there are now just over 2 months until Election Day. And in 11 days, Trump and Harris will go toe-to-toe in their first debate. Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Well, our CBN News chief political analyst David Brody is with us. So, David, what's your take on the interview? Did the vice president help or hurt herself?
I mean, I thought it was pretty much a stalemate. What I mean by that is I don't think she moved the needle either way. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Gordon. There were a lot of softball questions. She didn't do anything to hurt herself. She didn't have any sort of major, error, if you will. But once again, she wasn't asked tough questions. I mean, it was kind of, I'll be honest with you, it was kind of like grilled chicken and broccoli. I just like, no sauce, no salt. And I don't think it moved the needle either way. And that's kind of where I see it.
Well, isn't that ultimately a win for her? The charge has been she's been ducking the interviews and that she doesn't want to go off any kind of script. She wants to stay on focus, on message all the way to the November election. And just by showing up and doing an interview, isn't that a win for her?
Well, that's right. I mean, if the bar is she checked the list, if you will, or put a check mark on the list, sure, then it's a win for her. We'll see what it means in the polls, and we'll also see whether or not she does another interview. I don't expect another one to be done before September 10th for sure, but afterwards, you never know. That specifically could be an issue for sure.
All right, well, I pay attention when politicians repeat things, and it seems like a definite talking point for her. My values haven't changed. She repeated that phrase, I think, at least 3 times, maybe more. Is that a signal to Democrats back in San Francisco that she's still the same and she's tacking to more moderate positions for the election?
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's exactly what it is, Gordon. And if you think about those values haven't changed, but her positions have, and take fracking, for example. I mean, she says her value hasn't changed, but what is the value behind fracking, right? The idea is liberals believe that it causes environmental damage. Well, she clearly believes that. I mean, she's staked out that position and that value for a very long time. So if now she is for fracking, how do you square the position changing but the value not changing? It's that type of stuff that just has very much consultant written all over. And quite frankly, Gordon, this interview, if anything, was just a track to the middle. That's what she's trying to do. She's trying to win a presidential election. And so she's going to be for fracking. And now she's no longer for decriminalizing the border, which she was for in 2019. She's not for that anymore. Now she wants to be the prosecutor of prosecutors of everybody coming across the border. Look, I mean, and there's other things as well. She is definitely tracking to the middle. You wonder at one point if she could have put on a MAGA hat and say, drill, baby, drill. I mean, at this point, that's where we're heading, Gordon.
Well, she's putting on a MAGA hat to say, let's build a wall. It's like she's taking pages from the Trump campaign and Trump positions. Back in 2019, she was actively campaigning against that. Biden made it a signature of his campaign and then the signature of his first 3 years in office. Now they're waking up to, well, 9 million people flooding across the border isn't really a good idea. And so they're trying to I guess, track back. But it's just amazing to me that she can raise her hand in a debate in 2019 and say, I'm for decriminalizing the border, which essentially says there's no such thing anymore as illegal immigration, which is, I found the position at the time astounding. How does she reconcile? I don't understand why she's not being called on it.
Well, and that kind of goes to the softball nature of the interview. Where was the follow-up exactly? Some of what we're doing here. And speaking of follow-ups, what about when she being Dana Bash, asked Kamala Harris about Joe Biden and about his mental acuity? She didn't say it that way, but she asked Kamala Harris about that situation. Where was the tough question about what did you know and when did you know it? In terms of his slide into, obviously, mental acuity issues. There was none of that, Gordon. And quite frankly, the interview seemed a little jarring from a visual standpoint, more than a little. I mean, you had Tim Walz there, who spoke for about 4 minutes of the 26-minute interview, which kind of was strange. Why was he even there to begin with? It just seemed like he was a third wheel there. But then he was a very large third wheel. I mean, if you noticed in the visuals there, he's like above both Kamala Harris, who's the presidential nominee, and Dana Bash, but it looked like Kamala Harris was in some sort of deposition, and the lighting wasn't flattering. The whole thing just visually did not look good, and that's a problem with the campaign staff for putting her in that situation.
Well, I think she wanted him there, and otherwise he wouldn't have been there. So how do you think he came across, and what do you make of his attempt to blame his misstatement on his military service to grammar?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's buying that. But at the same time, the good news for the campaign is I'm not quite sure anybody's really voting, because Tim Walz had a few lies, or he calls it bad grammar or misstatements. You call it whatever you want based on your philosophical views. But I don't think anybody's voting for this ticket because of Tim Walz's past inactions or actions. I think this is all about Kamala Harris and defining the narrative on her. And as it relates to that, she tried to dial back that Comrade Kamala mantra that's coming from the Trump campaign, in essence saying, no, she's going to be tough on this and she's for fracking. The real question is, Gordon, are voters going to buy it? And honestly, in a truncated time space here, they may, based on the fact that there hasn't been the proper vetting in a presidential race that there normally should be.
Well, I think, judging from the polls, they're buying it by the truckload. I'm predicting that she can win. And if you look at the polls today in all those swing states, she's ahead. What's your take? How close is this race? Is it going to come down to the wire, or are we going to see Harris' momentum take her even further into victory?
Well, it's a very close race, but let's take the polls with a grain of salt, and here's why. If the polls are incorrect from their methodology standpoint, what do I mean by that? The polls are geared in a way to predict what the electorate is going to be. If the electorate is not that, then the polls will be off. And even if they're off by a percentage point or two, that'll make in this election a world of difference. So, for example, the Fox News poll had a lot of battleground state polls that show Kamala Harris ahead in places like Nevada and Georgia. Excuse me, not Georgia, but there were a couple others, Michigan, things like
Wisconsin.
that. But if you look, Wisconsin. But if you look at the methodology of the Fox poll, they're predicting the electorate's going to be 53% women, 47% men. Well, in 2016, it was actually 52-48. In other words, 48% men, 52% women. Sorry to geek out, but the point is that if they're off by a percentage point or two, that makes all the difference in the world. So we have to take these polls with a grain of salt, and it also depends on how they're weighted. Look, bottom line is that it is a close race. It's all about energizing the base. And it's interesting because Kamala Harris wants to play to the middle a little bit. That could actually end up backfiring on her to a degree, because I'm not quite sure how many folks in the middle are quite there for the taking. But the good news for her is that she can go to the middle a little bit because her leftist base won't leave her. And the reason they won't leave her is because it's anybody but Trump. And they'll make sure that they'll come out and vote for her because they don't want to see Trump in the White House.
Well, she continues with "my values haven't changed." I think that's the messaging to the left, and they're just going to hold their breath and wait until after the election. How do you rate the campaigners right now? Who's doing a better job, Harris or Trump?
Well, there's no doubt Harris is doing a better job. And Donald Trump has just been way off message on abortion. And it's not even about off message. I mean, now it's gotten to the point where people are starting to question, I say people, talking about conservatives, specifically pro-life conservatives, wondering, what's up with this? Is this just a campaign strategy to attract to the middle? But this has been so many different faux pas on abortion. I mean, calling for him being a champion of reproductive rights, and now he's for IVF funding at the federal level. He's against a federal abortion ban. The RNC platform was dialed back on the pro-life language, and there's more. The Florida abortion amendment that he just weighed in on in the last 24 hours, saying, giving the suggestion that he might actually vote yes on that, which is a problem for pro-lifers. Look, the list is long. So he is not on message at all when it comes to that. And now the campaign may say, well, you know what? We're tracking to the middle, and we think that's where we need to be because abortion's a political loser for us. Fine, you can have that strategy. That may work for you. The problem is you got pro-life Catholics in Pennsylvania and some of those Rust Belt states and all over the country, not to mention evangelicals overall. And though evangelicals are not single-issue voters, it could suppress turnout a little bit if people are just like, you know what, he's not the 2016 candidate anymore. He just feels a little bit different, especially on the abortion issue. And I might just maybe sit home or not bring 10 friends. I might bring 2, and that could be the difference.
Well, it's almost like a football game. The momentum has definitely shifted, and with that, it's a very short time. There's just 2 months, and we'll see how it turns out. Well, David, you're going to have a very busy 2 months, and thanks again for the insights.
You bet. Thanks.
In other news, Israel may expand its war in the north against Hezbollah so it can bring Israelis home. Meanwhile, in Gaza, the IDF has won a major victory against Hamas. Paul Strand has that story from Jerusalem.
The Israeli military says it has destroyed some 80% of Hamas's tunnels that could be used to smuggle weapons into Gaza from Egypt. It also says IDF fighters have basically finished off Hamas's Rafah brigade. believed to be one of Hamas's biggest and best group of fighters.
The IDF's military achievements in Gaza have enabled the return of most of the southern communities to their homes. The military achievements have also created the conditions that enable the return of a large number of hostages, and created the conditions required to return a large number of the remaining hostages.
And with the threat of a polio outbreak erupting, both the IDF and Hamas have agreed to 3-day humanitarian pauses in fighting to allow 640,000 children under age 10 in Gaza to be vaccinated, beginning Sunday.
This agreement is a testament to our collective commitment to overcome barriers and protect every child from polio.
Abdel Rahman Abu El Jadan is the first child in Gaza in 25 years to contract polio. He was just a month old when the war in Gaza started, and his family had to flee from camp to camp.
My son was not vaccinated because of the continued displacement, and we are sheltering here in the tent in such health conditions where there is no medication, no capabilities, no supplements.
And Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says the goals of the present war must be expanded beyond the battles in Gaza to also deal with what's needed in Israel's north. More than 60,000 Israelis there have been forced to leave their homes by near daily rocket and drone attacks by Hezbollah.
Our mission on the northern front is clear: to ensure the safe return of northern communities to their homes. In order to achieve this goal, we must expand the goals of the war and include the safe return of Israel's northern residents to their homes.
Gallant says expanding the war up north will not diminish Israel's commitment to dismantling Hamas and getting all the hostages back. Paul Strand, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, the 3-day ceasefire proves that Hamas has the ability to stop fighting. And just for the sake of every child in Gaza, my prayer is, will you make this permanent? Will you lay down your arms? Will you release all the hostages? Will you say it's time to end this? If you do that today, this war is over. Let's pray for that conclusion. Hamas started this. They took the hostages. The hostages are still in those tunnels. And let me remind every American, there are Americans in those tunnels. We need to bring them home. Ronald Reagan's real life was bigger than any Hollywood role he played. Actor Dennis Quaid brings the story of the 40th president to the big screen in the movie Reagan. The star sat down with Efrem Graham to talk about this long-awaited film.
Oh, Lord, what a heavenly light.
From astronaut Gordon Cooper in The Right Stuff to rock and roll singer Jerry Lee Lewis in Great Balls of Fire.
Do you believe in friendship, Wyatt Earp?
To dentist, gambler, and gunfighter Doc Holliday in Wyatt Earp. Dennis Quaid has built a career bringing real big lives to the big screen. His latest?
I will be frank with you that as a citizen, I would not like to see any political party outlawed on the basis of its ideology.
America's 40th president in the long-awaited film Reagan.
Because I still believe, Mr. Chairman, that democracy can handle it.
You've been busy, but now you get to play Reagan. What does this role mean to you?
It's become my favorite role I've ever had, actually.
Wow.
Reagan was a hero of mine. I voted for him twice, and yeah, he was like everybody's dad. He was a real heavyweight, and he won the Cold War. It really meant a lot to me in my life, for all of us of that generation, and for the generations today.
Yeah.
And playing him was the challenge of my life.
Challenge? What was the hardest part?
The biggest challenge of playing Reagan was getting down to him as a person, you know, not the hero that he was to me and so many people. And that's kind of warts and all, you know, because that's who we are. There was a place in Reagan, in talking to people who really knew him and were close to him, that was very private, that was impenetrable. This is the great communicator we're talking about. And what was that all about? That's what makes people tick down at their core. That was where I wanted to get to. Like I said, I didn't want to do an impersonation, and fear went up my spine because Reagan was like Muhammad Ali. Everybody knows him.
I am about to start the biggest war of this century, and I'm not going to fire a single shot. We're going to blow up 8 years of diplomacy. Well, if you think that got their undies in a wad, you just wait.
Knowing what you know now, having played the role, how would you compare the Reagan family to the Quaid family?
We were similar in many ways. I didn't see myself as Reagan. I didn't think I looked like him. We both have sunny dispositions, I think, down at the bottom of things. And he was an actor.
Tell me about finding the voice, because Reagan had such a distinctive voice, and I can imagine that had to have been weighing on your mind.
Yeah, well, that and the way he walked. And I was lucky because they got the part, they offered me the part in 2018. We didn't start shooting until COVID in 2020. Great time to make a movie. I basically talked like that for a year to the my family's, you know, they had to put up with it, I guess. In earlier life, he had a, you know, his voice was very much higher. It was way up here, you know, and it wasn't until about the time that he was president that, you know, he comes down to where you slow down and you talk slower.
I call upon the scientific community, those who gave us nuclear weapons, to turn their great talents now to the cause of mankind and world peace.
You, in this story, explore more of his faith than people are probably used to seeing.
Well, it's because it was such a huge part of his life. It was an everyday part of his life, you know, starting from as a young boy. You know, he even made the decision on his own to be baptized at that time.
There's a purpose for your life.
You can run from a bully for so long, but after a while, you're going to have to stand up to him.
His mother was his rock. That's another way that we're very similar. And he had an alcoholic father, which is kind of similar. That does something to a person, and you need a rock in life. And he found that early on.
This is also a love story.
Yes, it is.
Hello, I'm Nancy Davis.
Hello, Nancy Davis. I'm Ron Reagan. What would you have me do?
I want you to fight!
At the core of our movie is the love story between he and Nancy, which was very real and very rare. He wrote her love letters like every day, a little note or whatever, you know, even when he was in the hospital after the assassination attempt, actually. And I don't think there would have been a President Reagan if it wasn't for Nancy.
Ronnie, remember when we met? You told me that you wanted to make a difference in this world. You know what you have to do.
How are you feeling now that the movie is finally coming out? Because many people probably thought this was released, because I remember when we did the big splash and spread. It's
been going on from, well, I think it was a lot of tension, you know, just with it getting made. And the only thing that I really insisted upon is that it not come out during an election year.
You got your wish.
Yeah. And because I thought, you know, I didn't want this to be perceived politically, and it's not a political movie at all. But then again, like, interest is very high in Reagan, and the times that we're living in, especially 78, 79, 80, are so similar to 21, 22, 3, and 4, actually. And so I have to say, well, what do I know?
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, I remember hearing President Reagan give a speech, and it was absolutely spellbinding. It was unbelievable how he could command an audience. And the last time I saw him was all the way back in 1988 at the Republican convention, and it was, you know, it was his swan song. But even the hardened newspaper reporters, all the correspondents, everybody stopped and their attention, he riveted their attention. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. It was absolutely incredible. Here's another thing he did that I don't think gets enough recognition. Back in 1983, he declared a year of the Bible and encouraged every citizen of the United States to reread the Bible and read it in a year, and that through our adherence to the principles there, we would once again understand the root causes of America and what our liberty, our ideas of freedom are based on. That was something astounding. I'd love to see that happen again. Well, Reagan opens today across the country. Check your local listings for a theater near you. Terry?
David Carr has wrestling in his blood. He's a two-time NCAA champ, and his dad was an Olympic gold medalist. The two have something else in common as well. Both say that trophies and accolades are nothing compared to a relationship with Jesus Christ.
When I won my first state title, I was like, wow, like I did it. I'm feeling like on top of the world. And that's why I kind of knew, like, man, I can be pretty good at this.
Iowa State wrestler David Carr is a two-time and defending national champion, a dominating performer who won 96% of his collegiate matches.
How many matches did you lose in high school?
7.
You know every one of them? You remember them?
Yeah. So I was 247-7. And I remember the matches I won, but the matches I lost were the ones that I circled.
His discipline was both inherent and coached up by his father, Olympic medalist Nate Carr, who in 1988 appeared on the 700 Club.
It's a pleasure to welcome right now to the 700 Club, Nate Carr. Nate, I'm glad that you
Having a dad like Nate Carr, you know, multiple national champion, he's in multiple Hall of Fames, he wrestled in the Olympics, like, it was kind of tough because they just expect you to know what to do. They expect you to be really good.
Besides teaching David how to be a great wrestler, Nate passed on his faith.
All the things that we win down here on earth, all the medals and trophies, they're going to pass away. But one thing that you can be sure of is that if you're in Jesus Christ, he's going to give you eternal life.
My dad's so humble. I didn't even know how good he was, really. He didn't really talk about winning that much. And he was a pastor for a really long time after coaching. And so, like, most of our conversations were more about faith, character, integrity. And then as he started to get back into wrestling and coaching wrestling, that's when I kind of was like, oh, you know, I'm trying this wrestling thing. I wasn't very good at first, and I knew that he could help me, though, as I started to grow. And I found that he was very knowledgeable with the wrestling, the faith, the lifestyle it took to be a champion.
David excelled on the mat. However, after arriving at Iowa State, he found his love for God growing cold.
I'm just kind of just doing my thing and just kind of living for the world, living my own life. Even though, you know, I'm saved, I'm a Christian, I hadn't, like, really found a way to have that change in my heart, that softness in my heart. So I wouldn't do anything too crazy, but I definitely wasn't living a life that was honoring to God, I would say. And then finally, trying to live for just my own pleasure and my own life.
The realization was a catalyst for change.
I came to a breaking point. I wasn't happy with wrestling. I wasn't happy with where I was in life. And I just got on my knees and said, man, like, I tried to do it my way. I tried to do the double life, go to church, and then do whatever I want, really. It's not working out. I feel broken, I feel empty, and there's this void that I have inside me that no matter how many championships I win, how many people tell me how great I am, I can't get that in there. It's not gonna change me. There's something that I can't be filled. And then I just got on my knees and it's like, I just wanna live for you. I don't care if I win another wrestling match again.
And the change was immediate.
I was hungry for the word. I was praying, I was in community. Before, I didn't have community of people challenging me and holding me accountable. After that moment, I found that community and changed my life to the point of, like, man, I want to be so bold with my faith because Jesus Christ is, because he's changed my life.
On March 23rd of this year, David won his second national championship at Iowa State.
God just really blessed me to win. I don't know. It's crazy because I was like, I don't even care about wrestling right now. I just want to get close to my faith. But as I did that, he just blessed me so much in the wrestling part because I was more free. When I was like, you know, I'm just going to focus on my faith, I was like, man, I've already won with Christ.
After graduating this past May, David's goal is to wrestle in the 2028 Olympics. Beyond achieving Olympic gold, his hope is that others will experience the victory he found in Christ.
It's in God's hands. I put my faith in him. If I'm a world champ or Olympic champ, that'd be awesome. But if I'm not, not much will change in my character, how I view life, and how much I love other people. I just want everyone to have a relationship with Christ so that when they come to the end of their life and they get to hear, "Well done, faithful servant," and get to see the riches of heaven. That's the amazing part. That's something that I hope that everyone gets a chance to see.
That's a young man with his head on straight and a dad who has invested himself in ways that matter. I don't know very much about wrestling, but you do because you have a son who was a wrestler.
We got 3 generations of wrestlers.
Oh, really?
Dad was a wrestler, I was a wrestler, my son was a wrestler, and he did really well. He didn't win the state, but he came in 5th in the state in his division, and it's an incredible amount of work.
It really is.
But it's very rewarding. Wrestling, when you're on the mat, it's a team sport, but it's also a very individual sport.
For certain.
And when you're on the mat, those 2-minute periods are absolutely forever, and you are on your own, and it's up to you.
Sink or swim.
Just like David saying, you remember your losses, and you remember what happened, and you run through what should I have done better and all that. I will say this, it's wonderful to see fathers and sons on the 700 Club.
Yeah.
and there's a real tradition here of that.
Yes,
so.
That's awesome. It really is. Well, what a great story.
Welcome back to the 700 Club for this CBN News Break. Brad Arnold, lead singer of the rock band 3 Doors Down, had some unexpected comments during a concert in Pennsylvania. Arnold told the crowd, "This world surrounds us with the message we'll never be good enough." But then he added, "That's an absolute lie," saying you'll always be enough for one reason, and that's because Jesus Christ loves you. He then proclaimed, "Repeat after me, I am the one that Jesus loves." People cheered and clapped with the audience repeating the words. You can find the full story at cbnnews.com. CBN's Operation Blessing is providing life-changing surgery for children in Honduras. 15-month-old Angel was born with serious problems at the base of his spinal cord. His mother said he screamed in pain whenever he tried to stand up and cried when she changed his diaper. Doctors said the prognosis for recovery without surgery was grim, and he would not be able to walk as he got older and would lose movement in his arms and legs. The young family didn't have the money for the expensive operation he needed, but Operation Blessing learned of Angel's condition and scheduled and paid for the successful surgery. In a short time, Angel was walking and learning to run. His mother was choked up with emotion, sending her thanks to those who support Operation Blessing. You can learn more about Operation Blessing by visiting ob.org.
When her daughter was born with a cleft palate, Nene was told her baby would die. That's when she vowed to do everything in her power to keep her child alive. And she did, but it wasn't enough. The baby needed surgery that she and her husband could never afford.
Mayo was born with a cleft palate. Sometimes when her mom Nene looked at her daughter, she remembered what the midwife said the day that Mayo was born.
She said, "My daughter would not survive. I promised myself that I would do everything I could to save her life." The doctor said she could have surgery when she turned 1. So my husband and I decided to save up for the operation.
Dan and Nene work in the rice fields in Myanmar. Nene also weaves mats to sell, but they earn just enough for the basics.
I thought about working as a maid in the city. I couldn't bear the thought of leaving her.
Mayo's big sister Kayang helps out when she can.
It breaks my heart to see her cry. I play with her so she stops crying.
Then one day, Nene heard about Operation Blessing. We then paid for Mayo to receive free surgery to repair her cleft palate.
When she came out of surgery, I was really happy to see her.
And Kayang was excited to see Mayo when she came home from the hospital.
My sister's lip is so beautiful now. My heart is filled with happiness.
Now, she is able to eat well. She likes looking at herself in the mirror and loves being with her friends. I never thought this day would come, but you make my dreams come true. Thank you.
That's what 700 Club members do. You make dreams come true. You make people in desperate circumstances, you give them hope, you give them a future. You let them know that God loves them, that we love them too. And it's all possible because people like you care enough to give, to say, yes, I want to be a part of that. If you're not a member of the 700 Club, join with us. It's real simple. Call us, 1-800-700-7000. Say, you can count on me. I want to be a member of the 700 Club. You can also go to our website, cbn.com. You can also text to give. Text the letters CBN to 71777. And when you call, make sure you ask for Pledge Express. That's electronic monthly giving, bank doing all the work. When you go and sign up monthly on cbn.com, you'll automatically sign up for Pledge Express. When you text to give and you give monthly again, you automatically sign up for it. We have a lot of different club levels. There's $20 a month. That's 65 cents a day. There's also 700 Club Gold at $40 a month. 1,000 Club is $1,000 a year, and that breaks out to $84. When you call and say, yes, I'll be a part of it, I want you to have this. It's biblical answers to today's questions. What we did is we went out and found out the questions that were on your mind. What are the top questions that people have, Christians have in the world today? And what does the Bible give as answers? We want you to have it so you're prepared for those questions and you can give a ready answer to people who ask it of you. It's yours when you join. 1-800-700-7000. They're making miracles from nothing. Israeli civilians from all walks of life are stepping up to help and heal their nation. You can see them in action in the genius of Israel. Since its founding, Israel has been known for the strength and ingenuity of its army. But the war with Hamas was different. On October 7th, civilians were the first targets. And ever since then, civilians have been the first responders.
You saw it on October 7th when those sirens went off. Everyone knows they have a part, everyone knows the role, and everyone knows how to pivot from normalcy to crisis on a dime.
The people became the government, and we did a better job.
While thousands of Israelis showed up for reserve duty, thousands more showed up to feed them.
This is one of the things that I took upon myself since October 7th. To me, it's a morale booster. On October 8th, we were already barbecuing, and during those weeks, those first 2 weeks, it was only takeaway. So we opened up, kacha, like as far as the eye can see, and we started grilling. It was 5,000 to 8,000 soldiers every day, and these were hungry soldiers. This is morale, this is ruach, this is to say thank you. But back then, for those first 2 weeks, it was about food.
God bless you. Thank you all. Wow.
Danny and his team traveled to army bases all over Israel, wherever they're needed.
In my civilian life, I am a mortgage broker, which I spend 6 days a week doing it. But this is, for me to catch a breather and to feel like I'm helping. And every time I come to another base, and this is probably number 30, every time's a different experience. Every time you've changed something for somebody.
Those people leaving their job, just like us, leaving their jobs, leaving everything they do to prepare meals for us, that's incredible.
On October 7th, 5 Israeli CEOs watched the news, all with the same question: what can we do to help?
These 5 guys have the biggest heart that I ever met. They started it with so much love and compassion and drive that they influence all of us.
Without hesitating, these CEOs, all childhood friends, took thousands of shekels of their own money, bought as much food as they could carry, and headed south to grill burgers for the soldiers' camp near Gaza. The operation grew quickly, and donations poured in, and soon they had more than 1,200 volunteers.
these guys and the group is making miracles from nothing. At the peak time, we fed around 30 to 35,000 soldiers a day. It was unbelievable.
What happened on October 7th? I think nobody could even in his wildest dream think that this could happen to us. Never. After it, I will deal with my life. But for now, this is our lives. And we are becoming friends. Like, think the most difficult days, we are together.
It became a healing process to all of us. To the people that work here, over 60% of our personnel is volunteers. And I see it became like a healing center for everyone that comes here. It became a family.
Instead of thinking about the career and money and houses and whatever, now we think about each other. This is like a group therapy. I don't know if we're volunteering or the other way around.
We're all volunteering from our heart and really from a place where we love our country and we love our people. Am Yisrael Chai.
Gome and me and many people here stopped our lives, and we are fully committed to do this as long as there's a need. We're here as long as the country needs us to be here.
It's an amazing story, The Genius of Israel. It's based on our dear friend's book, Dan Senior, Saul Singer, their wonderful book, The Genius of Israel, and we partnered with them to create this documentary so that people can know why we stand with Israel. Hamas it's a culture of death where they glorify death and they glorify violence and they dedicate themselves to wiping Israelis off the map. And here's Israel saying, we want to dedicate ourselves to life. We want to have life and have it more abundantly. You can get this film. You can pre-order a DVD copy, The Genius of Israel. You can receive 4K streaming access as well on the release date, which is September 30th. We want to honor the memory of all those who were lost on October 7th. We're going to have a memorial show for them on that date. But in advance, we want to let the world know why we support Israel. What is it, the genius of Israel, that leads to such resilience in the face of terrorism? It's yours for a gift of any dollar amount. Your gift will go into the work of CBN Israel, the humanitarian work to the evacuees, all the news that you see from our Jerusalem News Bureau, as well as these wonderful documentaries on Israel. You can pre-order today, and you'll receive discussion guides for the film and video exclusives. So call us, 1-800-700-7000, or go to geniusofisraelfilm.com, or you can text GENIUS to 80888. And with 2 minutes left, we're down to the wire.
I've got a big one for you. This is Aaron, who says, hi, Gordon. I saw a news report of a woman praying to the one true God, Waheguru. I've heard some Christians say that Waheguru is just a phrase meaning wondrous God. I've heard others say she was praying to a demon. I've looked it up and discovered that it's part of Sikhism, which believes in a monotheistic God as the creator of all things. Obviously, as a Christian, I believe in no God but Jehovah, and I would never pray to Waheguru. I just wanted to get your opinion. Is Waheguru merely the Sikhs' limited understanding of Jehovah, or is it something darker?
Waheguru literally translates into wow guru, which in English would be great teacher. So, you know, from that standpoint, it's remarkably innocuous. Let's go to the Bible. What does the Bible say about it? Here in Malachi chapter 1, verse 11, for from the farthest east to the farthest west, my name is great among the nations. Offerings are presented to my name everywhere, pure gifts, for my name is great among the nations, says the Lord of hosts. And so here's a name, Adonai Savat, which I'm probably mispronouncing the Hebrew. Let's get into the English word God, which we use a lot. That comes from High German Gott, G-O-T, which literally means the one who receives sacrifice. So if the Latin Deus, the Greek Theos, the Hebrew Adonai, can be translated God in English. Well, let's recognize his name is great among the nations. He has not left himself without a witness. All people know him. Here's a word from Psalms. I will sing to the Lord as long as I live.